In today's Warzone video, we're taking a look at the top 5 best guns you guys need to be using. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe with notifications turned on, and let's hop into it. All right, so let's hop into this here. Of course, we happen to have my ISO Hemlock as our first gun, which we're going to be talking about along paired with the Lockman sub. These two right here are probably like my top 2 guns to be able to pair together here, especially when playing Ashika Island. It's just such a great combo. But generally speaking, we have the tactical, the smoke grenade, the throwing knife here as our lethal, and then the perk package of Overkill, Double Time, Fast Hands, and High Alert. This is specifically for Ashika Island. I highly recommend it for any guys that are playing it. Definitely recommend trying this perk setup out. But let's get into our first gun here, which is going to be the ISO Hemlock. And here's my general base overview of these attachments. So let's get into it. First thing, the Harbinger D20, a great suppressor to be able to have on the gun to kind of stabilize the gun out, give you a little bit more range, and just all that sort of fun jazz. I really like it. The tune on this is going to be a plus 0.99, a plus 0.65. At that, got to go up and near the barrel, the Fielder T50. This is pretty necessary to make this thing very effective at range and, of course, control that recoil. So I'd highly recommend you guys go for this. The tune on this thing here is going to be a plus 0.18, negative 0.22. After that, got to go down here to the underbarrel section for that beautiful F-Tac Gripper 56. Absolutely love this thing. Aiming idle stability, hip fire accuracy, and of course recoil stabilization. Just a absolutely fire underbarrel to be able to run on like a variety of different guns. The tune on this is going to be negative 0.57 and a plus 0.27. Got to go down here. After that, throw on the 45 round mag. I would prefer this thing to have like a 50 or a 60. But because the fire rate's not like super crazy fast, kind of reminds me a little bit more of that CR56 AMAX, and the fact that it just, it's a 45 round mag there. It hit really hard, and so does this gun. So we're definitely okay with this. It's more than enough. For our last attachment though, we got the AIMOP V4. This is just, a tried and true precision sight. I'd highly recommend you guys try this one out, or if you don't want to do that, maybe go for something like the Cronin Mini Pro. That works really well on Ashika Island as well. You could probably switch something up here in the build a little bit if you want to just go for a red dot and maybe take off the underbarrel section, maybe go for like a stock or something if you're trying to be a little bit more closer range. But generally speaking, the AIMOP V4 is going to be the way to go, and that is going to be negative 1.06, and then all the way maxed out there on the bottom. So that's my full build there for the ISO Hemlock. Next up, this is a gun that's going to be my #1 go-to secondary. Like I said, comparing this or pairing this with the ISO Hemlock, this is just a top tier loadout on the entirety of it. So I'd recommend for you guys to actually use the Lockman sub. But let's get into all these attachments here for this gun because it is so good. So here's my general base overview of these attachments. Now let's get in here and break it all down for you. So we have the XRK Sandstorm. This can help us out that vertical recoil control. The vertical recoil on this thing is going to be something we have to kind of take into consideration, but this will entirely stabilize it out and you'll be perfectly good to go. The tune on this is going to be a negative 0.31, a plus 0.25. After that, got to go down here to underbarrel section, the Lock Grip Precision 40. Increase your hip fire accuracy, recoil steadiness, and aim walking steadiness. So all great things here. It's really going to help make this thing an absolute laser beam, and just pretty much like super incredibly easy to control, which is what we want. The tune on this is going to be a negative 0.57 and a negative 0.23. After that, got to go up in here to the VLK Laser 7MW. One of my favorite lasers to be able to run between this, the FSS OLE. These are just, the top 2 lasers in the game at the moment. ADS speed, aiming stability, and of course, sprint to fire. Really good stuff. The tune on this is giving me a negative 0.37 and a negative 19.74. At that, got to go down here and throw on that beautiful 40 round mag. You guys could definitely try out the 50 round mag if you really want to, but ideally speaking, you're probably going to go for the 40 round just because that's just, the thing that's going to slow you down less as opposed to 50. But I don't think it's going to slow you down too much more, so you can definitely give it a shot. But I've just been running the 40 and I've been perfectly fine with that. And then for our last attachment, we got the Lockman TCG10. This can help us out with that recoil control. So this is just a really solid thing to be able to kind of add on to this build, and we're also going to use it to kind of even inadvertently speed the gun up a little bit here. So the tune on this is going to be plus 0.65 and a negative 0.20. So we're going to get a little bit more sprint to fire, but we want a little bit more recoil steadiness instead of that sprint to fire. I'm not my sprint to fire, my aim down sight speed. So we definitely sped this thing up a little bit, and it makes it a top tier, close quarters gun to be able to use here in Warzone 2. All right, next up, I got to give you guys the builds here for one of my favorite LMGs in the game right now. That's going to be the Socken MG38. So this is even more of a laser beam almost than the RPK was pre-couple patches ago. I know it kind of bounced around a little bit nowadays, but the Socken MG38 is going to be a gun that you guys should be using. Something I think kind of gets neglected here in the game. A lot of people don't be using it. I hardly ever see it, but let's get into these attachments. So here's my general base overview for this thing, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy using it. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but it is incredibly accurate, incredibly lethal. So First thing, the ZLR Talon 5, it's a great suppressor, similar to that Harbinger D20 and what it does, but it's just a great suppressor overall. The tune on this is going to be a plus 0.59, a plus 0.58. After that, we're going to go down here to the underbarrel section for the Cronen WL55. Aiming, idle stability, aim locking steadiness, and of course recoil steadiness. Great things to be able to have. The tune on this is going to be a plus 0.59, a plus 0.18. Now let's go up in here to the barrel section. We have to have a barrel on this, so we're going to go for the 20 Bruen Silver Series barrel. Massive increase to our bullet velocity, damage range, recoil control, and hipfire accuracy. The hipfire accuracy is not something we're too concerned with, but I mean, sometimes it kind of helps out if you get in a little bit of a pinch, because, you know, everything is slow as molasses in this game. You know, swapping through stuff, bringing your gun up. I mean, everything's just super slow. So maybe this kind of helps out a little bit in that regard. But the tune on this is going to be a plus 0.34 and a plus 0.26. And now let's move in here to the laser. As I was talking about with the 7MW, the other one being the FSS OLE, does the same thing, pretty much like the same thing, but just a bit of a different name. They're just both great attachments to be able to run. This can speed this thing up, considering it's an LMG and it is quite slow by nature. The tune on this is going to be a negative 0.19 and negative 16.45. And then for our final attachment, the AMOP V4. You really can't ever go wrong with this thing, especially if you're playing Ashika Island or even on the Al Mazrah. I mean, the AMOP V4 is just such a top tier sight to be able to run. You guys really can't go wrong with it almost ever. The tune on this is going to be a negative 1.55 and then all the way maxed out there on the bottom. So that's my full build here for the Socket MG38. Next up, I want to take you guys into a new and improved build here with the Vaznev 9K. I was running that here within my more recent video for a little bit. I've had a lot of fun actually using this, so I want to give you guys an updated build for it because it is so fun to be able to use. So here's my general base overview of these attachments. Now let's get into it, because I think a lot of people kind of like sleep on this gun because they're just all about, you know, maybe the Fennec or, you know, the Lockman sub, but this is a really good gun. So first thing, Bruen Cubic Comp, horizontal and vertical recoil control. We prefer this just to be able to use it just because it's going to slow us down the least amount possible in comparison to some of these other compensators and suppressors. So this is really good. The tune on this is going to be a negative 0.28 and a plus 0.27. We're going to skip the barrel section, go straight to laser for that beautiful FSS OLE. I mean, you really can't go wrong with it. Like I've been saying, anytime we've had this or the 7MW attached to anything, it's just great overall. The tune on that is going to be negative 0.16 and negative 18.10. Now let's go down here to the magazine. 45 round mag. Got to increase it from the base 30 to 45. It just makes sense. I mean, you run into multiple enemies, and having 30 rounds in the magazine, even with those ground nuke guns, can be pretty, like, you know, it puts you in a bad situation. Feel like you're kind of pigeonholed into maybe taking one person out, having to reload. So having those extra 15 rounds can be make or break in a lot of situations. So that's pretty clutch when we have that. Moving on back here for the True Tac grip in the rear grip section. Sprint to fire and ADS, got to speed this thing up, considering, you know, it is an SMG. We want to be able to speed it up. We'd probably do the exact same thing here for the Lockman if we had the ability to have one of those rear grips, but we do not have the ability to have something to speed it up in that section. The tune on this is going to be negative 0.45 and a negative 0.17. And then lastly, I've switched up something here in the very back on the stock, and I put the broadside FCT. So we have access to this because the KV broadside shotgun came into the game, and this actually got added into this category right here, so I can actually select it, and it gives me aiming stability, crouch movement speed, aim down sight speed, and sprint speed. So like overall, that's like pretty crazy, and this is a top tier attachment in my opinion. I definitely switched over from using the Marquis R7 and the Otrizat over to the broadside FCT. This is a really fun one to be able to use. The tune on this is going to be all the way maxed out for ADS speed, since you can actually do that. One of the only things I have maxed out, and a negative 1.86 on the bottom. So that's my full build there for the Vaznev 9K. For our last gun here today, we're going to be taking a look at something probably to catch you guys a little bit off guard. The Basilisk. This is actually a really good pistol right now, and it's actually not even going to be dual wield, which is the crazy part, but this is a really fun and also useful thing to be able to have in close range. So let's get into it. And this is actually a pretty simple build here. Not a lot of tuning is going to be required. So first thing here is going to be the Bryson HTA trigger action. This is going to increase your fire rate and trigger response time. This is definitely good. It just makes so you can, you know, get shots off faster. It's pretty beneficial in that regard. However, there's not going to even be a tune on this thing, because no matter what you do, you're going to start negatively affecting it somehow, some way. You're going to start losing accuracy. You're going to start losing maybe some of your recoil control, and it's just going to be a real pain. So we actually don't even tune this thing because it causes more harm than good. So it's really not necessary. It's kind of one of the only things I don't really tune. Then let's move on down here. Gonna have the 500 snake shot ammunition. I mean, this is just what makes this thing really good. We're not trying to use this as like a regular pistol. It's got to have the snake shot rounds. If you don't have the snake shot rounds, rounds, then you're basically just kind of like SOL. Like, it's not what you want to use. So you have to run these things. Now I go down here, and we're actually going to throw on the S40 Rapid Loader. This is going to be pretty clutch. This is going to allow you to get those shots back in the chamber faster, those, you know, buckshots or whatever you want to call them. It's just going to allow you to actually reload faster, especially considering this is a single pistol and not like, you know, you're running with the dual wield, so you have, you know, only 6 shots as opposed to 12 to be able to, you know, use from. So we definitely got to have this thing on there. Now let's move up in here to the laser section. So we got the Revo LSD 7MW, hit recoil control, fire accuracy, and of course sprint to fire speed. This is another great attachment, but also the tune on this is going to be pretty much non-existent because we really don't care as much about, you know, I mean, it's either you go one way to sprint to fire, you go one way to the hip spread. Either way, you're starting to lose something, and it's going to negatively affect the gun. It's just kind of one of those things where it's unfortunate, and you can't really win with this, so we just don't tune it at all. And for our last attachment, which we are going to be tuning, that's going to be the SORO-99 grip. This is going to help us out with that pistol fast draw, you know, bringing it up from the hip faster, sprint to fire, and aim down sight speed. So all really great things here. And of course, what a lot of people would be running, which is the Akimbos. We are not, however. We're going to be running just the regular single. And the tune on this is going to be a plus 0.52 and a negative 0.29. So that's my full build there. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe, check out these other videos here on screen, and just a no trick app, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.